Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to dig into something. This is for the men today. I'm going to start out. This is for the men today, but also for women, too, to understand men better. We're going to talk about some of the mental health challenges that men go through. Everyday stuff, everyday life. It's just as challenging as women, just in a different way. And she is part of an amazing wellness center for mental health in Massachusetts, where they help anybody. It could be men, women, teens, with piloting their lives forward in many different ways. That center is the New Beginning Center, and she is Sherri Alexandrovich, for Diamond of the Decade, back with us. How are you doing today?
Doing really well. How about yourself?
Real good, and I'm grateful that you bring this to the table today, because I believe that men and mental health is sometimes kind of pushed to the side. Mm-hmm. A lot of that because of society and what we're led to believe. What do you hear a lot of times when you work with men? What do they reveal? What are they dealing with?
So I think a large portion of what men are struggling with is the stigma of who they're supposed to be, and generationally who they have been groomed to be, either by their fathers or the lack of fathers, because that's a big one as well, or other people out in the community that they have been exposed to. And I think the should and shouldn'ts of what I think men have been kind of conditioned over the years to do. And then now fast forward to 2025, where I think the pressure is more on men to talk more and communicate more and be more present and be more helpful in a relationship, yet they haven't been taught. So there's been this switch that's been flipped about how men should and shouldn't be, how boys should and shouldn't be, and then now how they should be without any of that educational training or any of that guidance to help them from point A to point B. And then I still think a lot of that stigma that's still in there about how men should be acting. They're getting these mixed messages of that, fathers should be more communicative, should be more involved in their children's lives. And then there's the stigma of, redefining what masculinity looks like. What is the role of the father? How can men be vulnerable and not feel shame or embarrassment for being able to express how they feel? I see that you've got a lot. So there's just so much to say on this. So I'm going to give pauses so that you can kind of give some feedback in between.
I hear you loud and clear. And I'm going to share again. I'm with a men's group about a year and a half. I've been part of it. Never, ever thought I would do this. And when I learned of it, I signed up right away. It was one of those go for it moments. I put a credit card down and signed up for this retreat weekend. I'm 2 hours in. I didn't even know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it has been extremely impactful learning that men are not alone. Most of what we deal with, we're all dealing with. And these are the themes I see come up.
Okay.
Why are we here? What's our purpose? What's our higher purpose? We talk about that a lot and help define it. Also, what's holding you back?
It's a good one.
What's the fear? What's the fear? And being what we call in the group masked down, meaning vulnerable. And we've had a lot of moments where, some of these things, and these are all friends now. Like, we all hang together. It's wonderful. Okay. They've shared things that they've never shared with anybody else. And just to kind of dissect and process it. But I believe it goes back to what you're saying. Society, big boys don't cry, man up, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay.
Right.
Then you think you need to be a certain way. So, when you get teary over something, it's like, oh, okay, no, nobody can see that. I'm looking weak. We need to get past that. Okay. We have emotions. Men have emotions just like women.
Right.
I'm going to share this with you, and I want your feedback. I've heard from many in all different areas. Now, men are told not to be emotional, but I've often heard that that's okay. Don't, because as a man, once you get tripped up in emotions, it starts going bad. So it's a little conflicting in
Mhm.
terms of, especially around women. You're giving up your power, if you will, if you attack or deal with the situation with emotion instead of using logic and stay the course. What are your thoughts?
So I think that all of us have some level of emotion in anything and how we're defining it. And I agree. I think that the stigma has been that it's okay for women to get emotional and be able to communicate, but it's not okay for men, that they should not be emotional, but they should be able to address a problem as eloquent as a female can. Yet we're putting all of these restrictions on how you should respond to something. And so I think my advice would be to really individualize that for who you are as a person, because it's really difficult to answer, globally, because everybody's relationship is different. So what I would always encourage when I'm dealing with young men or just men in general in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship is really starting out the foundation of things with a lot of transparency and a lot of openness. I think that a lot of couples don't come into relationships defining what are the roles. There's this expectation that the fathers go to work, they come home,
Yep.
and the wife takes care of the kids. But we're talking about a whole new world now where both parents work, the mother and the father work. And so when they come home, unless there's this talked about understanding of whose role is what, people tend to slip into what is this norm. And then there's this harbored resentment and anger. And then trying to communicate that makes it even more difficult because the men get stuck in this, I can't have emotion, yet I'm upset or concerned, or I didn't want to hurt my partner's or my kiddo's feelings. And the woman is feeling, well, I need you to communicate. And I also need you to communicate in an effective, strong way. So it's really just taking all of those conflicting thoughts and ideas, bringing it in. That's what I mean when I say bringing it individualized. So when you're starting in a relationship, defining what are the roles of the relationship, who is responsible for what does our communication look like, and being able to have those conversations so that you can grow together. Because men and women think differently. We see things differently. We absorb things differently. We perceive things differently. The brains function differently. Men tend to be, and not all men, but tend to be the problem solvers. They want to win. They fix it. That's what their role is.
Yep.
And sometimes the women don't want their problems to be solved. They just want to vent. That's a hard one for men because they don't want to listen to just the venting, because they want to protect. They want to help. So it's all of those ways in which we have been conditioned, yet we're living in archaic values in a different society. So a lot of that not only needs to be redefined, but redefined with eloquence, like just understanding and open-mindedness, that we want to effectuate change, but that change is going to come, and almost like be careful what you wish for. So in general, it is never good to suppress any emotions and not be able to feel and think and express, because what happens is we get angry. It's like the volcano and it explodes. And then we wonder why the boys or the teenagers or the men get angry and they explode. They haven't had an outlet. They're
holding it in.
Correct. Right. And they're told that it's wrong if they don't hold it in. So I think that the education, the teaching, the guidance of what is effective communication, how do we redefine what masculinity is? What is, the importance of showing the next generation coming up that it's important to be a good dad, to stop and to listen and to spend that time and to share how you're feeling in order to then change the world moving forward. Because we don't want to keep perpetuating these negative
perceptions.
Absolutely.
It's my personal belief that after a journey, everybody should, man, woman, should define their 5 love languages before entering any kind of relationship, even business. I think that also applies. It is, once you start looking at it, and then maybe even looking back at relationships, how you acted in the relationship, it could have come from a place of love, but the average man, just going average here, it's probably he's showing her acts of service. Look what I did. I did this. I mowed the lawn. I put up a shed. I did this. Look at me. Okay, that's fantastic. He cares. He wants her. He thinks, maybe she asked for that. We need a new shed, hon. Okay, I got it done. But that's not what she really wants. That's just some task. He's looking at that. That's a showing of love for you. And there it goes wrong, because then he feels like, she doesn't even care. Look what I did.
Anything I do, I come home from work, I spend the whole weekend working on the yard. Right. So it's that communication piece and understanding. You nailed it so perfectly. What is your love language? Because once you can understand that, then you can see that if my husband's love language is service, or my wife's love language is service, then the things that they are doing for me are how they are going to show how much they love and appreciate me. And then there's affection, there's touch, there's all the different love languages, but understanding that is important, because if one person's love language is service and one person's love language is affection or touch, and you guys don't communicate that, one's going to feel rejected and one is going to feel like they're putting in too much without receiving anything. So that's why it's so important to understand fundamentally who is your partner in this relationship moving forward, and how do you gather all that. It's almost like, I don't want to say interviewing for a job, but kind of it's what you're doing, right? Because this is the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So if you don't start your foundation, if your foundation to your house is not solid and concrete, we can't build any walls or any floors on it, because we don't have a solid foundation. And that's what's really, really important for the moms and the dads to really understand, and to be able to just say, this is mom and dad time. This is date night. Do role modeling for the kids. What's important for communication? What's important for sharing the responsibilities around the house, and not just have it assumed, because that's where we get into trouble.
Yep. Yeah. Do you find many men, when you work with them over years, I don't want to put everybody in the same category, but it's similar. Like, men are similar. There's not a lot of, kind of the same in there. And I'm not even going to qualify that with anything past that, but do you find that men are all dealing with a lot of the same stuff?
I think that there are definite similar patterns for what men are experiencing, both relationally, socially, professionally. I would agree with that. And then wanting or needing to go home and have a support from their significant other when they come home, and feeling like they have that space to do that, I think is really important. As much as, some people like to go home and to vent and get that off their chest. Their partner, I think that, I don't want to say that the male or the female, but I think that whatever we're experiencing for ourselves, we should always be considerate to our partner, or the person that we're with also may be having a similar experience or a similar need. And so as much as we're asking for our needs to be met, it's also being mindful of the other person's needs. And how do we share that venting time? How do we share that responsibility where there's equality within the relationship, so that both parties are feeling heard and supported? And I think that it's important to keep in mind that a lot of the men haven't been taught how to communicate.
Yep.
That's communicate, or what's important to communicate. And I think that that's an important reminder, is that we're not instilled with there's no playbook that we're born with for any one of us. And, men and women learn things differently. Sometimes men like reinforcement with praise. Thank you for doing this. Well, that makes them feel good. Don't forget to praise and say thank you. And as much as we like to hear it as females, our partners like to hear that too. So it's just having that bi-directional respect, I think, is really important, and understanding he's not out mowing the lawn because he doesn't want to spend time with me. He's out mowing the lawn because it needs to be mowed. and he knows that we're having a cookout the next day. That's his way of contributing to helping. Go ahead.
And he wants you to be happy.
Right, exactly. Right. So communicating what makes you happy, because we can't guess.
Mm.
We don't know what's inside someone else's head. So that's where the communication comes in play of what is each other's roles. I just started, I had a session last week with somebody who's just moving in with a partner. First words out of my mouth, have you guys defined what your roles are? And it's a younger couple, and they kind of looked at me like, well, what are the roles of the relationship? What are the responsibilities? Because I think we go into it with an assumption that your other person and your other partner is gonna know exactly how this home is gonna operate, but they don't. And it changes when you add another person into the home or into the dynamic. And so being respectful and mindful of having the really hard conversations now, because those are developmental. Those are things that are going to just solidify and help the relationship be stronger moving forward, versus 3 years from now, you're telling your partner that it was really irritating that for the last 3 years, this is something that you've done. And now I'm at the point where I just need space, or I want a separation, over something that could have been really resolved early on in the relationship, had there be that open communication and the understanding that our partner may not know how to communicate. So how do we them that?
Things I've learned in life. Here they are. From a man, people reveal themselves in the very beginning. You just got to look. They're going to tell you who they are.
Right.
We don't look. For various reasons, you're submitting in a relationship.
The glory. We want to see the fun. We get swept up in the endorphins and the excitement of the relationship. But you have to kind of look at it from a business perspective too, right? Because it's not. That's what it boils down to. Because when all of the highlights wear off, and it does, gets a little bit more static. Things aren't as exciting as they were in the beginning. If you guys don't have some common things in common, then there's a difference between compatibility and loving somebody. You can love somebody to the depth of your soul, but if you guys are not compatible, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
So it's really important to understand compatibility, and are we compatible outside of just in a sexual way, or outside of just an attractive way? Because at some point, those things are not in the forefront of our minds. There are other things that are much more important, and that's the foundation that needs to be fostered and built and given emphasis to.
You talk about the roles. It's almost, go loose on this, it's almost like a job. So, we joke around about the interview process. Excuse me, can you tell me what your 5 love languages are? We just met before we even go on here. It's the deal you make in the beginning. That's my professional takeaway, because a lot of times you can't change it. A lot of times you negotiate a salary. You're stuck with it for quite some time because you agreed to it in the beginning. I think it's the same thing in a personal relationship. Expectations and roles. And all of that, it's never really even talked about. What are we doing? I know it can be an uncomfortable conversation, but once you understand where you're coming from and what you expect in the relationship, like you said, it's, sunshine, roses, lollipops, rainbows, and all of that, and you don't go there. You are going to go there once at some point.
You are, absolutely.
And it may be in an attorney's office.
Right. So exactly. And just envision this. If you can't have that conversation in the beginning stages of the relationship where things are all roses and sunshine and rainbows and lollipops, if you can't in those moments sit down and have the really hard conversations, how can you be expected when things have gone south and things are no longer, and there's a dark, stormy cloud, to then have that conversation? And so sometimes if I can put it into perspective for a couple that I'm working with and say, this is why it's important here and now, before we've bought a house together, we've gotten married, we've had children, we've merged our finances, to really talk about what are our expectations of this relationship? What is the roles between, the husband and the wife, or the husband and the husband, or the wife and the wife, or whatever the dynamic it is? those are important definitions that are going to build anything moving forward. And if you can't have that conversation now, in 5 years, there's no, just imagine, right? Imagine trying to have that conversation when you're angry in 5 years and what that looks like. Another thing too is, if you need to be able to feel like you can tell your partner anything. Right? So think about when you're thinking about the relationship that you're in, can you tell your partner anything? Is there anything that you wouldn't be able to say to them, and why? And what does that look like? Because if there is something that's floating around that oh my God, they're going to get mad at me, or there's this preconceived notion that I'm going to get in trouble, that's a big one, right? Oh, so then I would be like, right? So then I would be like, I'm all over that. Come on in. Let's have a conversation about what are your expectations from your mother or your father? Why are you projecting this transference of emotion onto your partner about getting in trouble? That's work that you need to go back to your therapist and say, okay, I've got some things that I need to detangle because I'm afraid my husband or my wife is going to get angry with me about X, Y, and Z. Well, have they ever been angry with you about that? No. Well, where's that coming from? Well, it's coming from some sort of learned behavior or disappointment or letdown somewhere in your life. And if you don't have that conversation, you're going to continue to put that on somebody that's not theirs to own. That's yours. That's your work in therapy.
Hey, I'm glad you said that, because many of us, and I think we talked about it before, how we have a feeling of not worthy enough. It's in us. It's all different areas. It shows itself, it rears its head occasionally in different ways. But even, I believe, a little more impactful for a man, because he doesn't want you to know that. He doesn't want you to know that he feels like he's not good enough. So in that situation where he mowed the lawn, he put the shed up, he power washed, everything's ready for the big barbecue this weekend. Yep. And he doesn't feel feedback coming back. He felt, it wasn't good enough in his mind. Right. Good enough.
The feedback that he got was, you didn't put the chairs away? Or you didn't, right. The 5 things that happened, and the one thing that you were asked to do when you went outside, but you got distracted and did 5 other things, that's the one thing that gets focused on. Yep. So that goes back to the other partner as well, as being mindful of how we communicate and what is the intention behind something that we say. When I'm teaching communication skills, that's always think about what is the intention? What is the message you want that person to receive? And are you communicating in a way that is going to be well received, or is it going to be combative or argumentative?
Final question here, as we talk about, and it just kind of came up, the interview process in a relationship, asking or looking at what was their family and parental situation? What was the dynamics there? Do you feel that that's important to take a look at because it might reveal things that might come in the future?
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I think how we were raised and what stigmas were put upon us on what our roles are play a huge role in how we perpetuate things moving forward, because not everybody's had an opportunity to be exposed to different ways of being. And so if your world has been encompassed on one way of being and you were raised without a dad, and the philosophy is that, generationally, there haven't been dads in the picture, your perception of what a role of a father is what? Do you have one? You might have read about it. You might have seen it on a movie, but you've not had that lived experience. And that's so impactful on then how do we perpetuate? How do we grow up and be a father? Do we stay involved?
Yep.
Right. So, and when I was doing my first master's, I did a thesis paper on creating a parenting class for young men in high school, because that's really where it starts. I mean, think about when people start having, unfortunately, children at this age. You're talking back at high school, in the importance of the father's role in all of that, being a young man. And what if you become a father when you're 17 or when you're 16 and you don't know how to be a dad, or what you should and shouldn't be doing, and what is your responsibilities? And, she's home You're out at prom. I mean, I just think that education and awareness, compassion, communication, all of that is really important because we're all evolving together.
Just that whole, the dad situation, let's say your father left abruptly, let's say he wasn't faithful, just left the family. You could wind up doing the same exact thing because you're looking for some kind of validation you never got from him. Or on the flip side, you could turn around and say, even as a man, you know what? I'm going to do it right this time. I'm going to, as best I can. Nobody's perfect. It could go either way, but I in my journey, looking at other situations, looking at mine over the years, that says a lot. Not that it's judging, it's just information. It's just an observation, just, putting all the pieces together. We can just keep going. I mean, there's other things.
Oh, there's so much. This is such a big topic. It's so, like I said, it's so incredible. And I think it is so important. And it's becoming even more so because I think we're moving into more of a society where people's voices are being heard more. But I think there's still some of that confusion about whether that's okay or not. And so as we're having this forward movement and we're setting these new expectations on each other, but we're not really expressing what our expectations are. We're just going to throw on a wing and a prayer that somebody's going to figure it out. No,
we have to figure it out individually.
we really do. We really do. And you'd be surprised at how many men or boys or teenagers are relieved to hear that their opinion matters. Their emotions matter. They're validated.
Yeah.
They have a right to also have a bad day or to be upset about something. And I mean, everybody has the same. So I guess I would want to pull gender out of any stigma and just say that as humans, we all deserve to be treated with respect and we all deserve to have a voice.
Capitals on the word all. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Thank you for understanding, especially when it comes to men. And we could even, I've often heard in the last year and more, even younger men, say upper 20s, 30s, this is mind blowing, the loneliest segment of the population. You would think it might be a senior later in life. Things have changed in life. No, it's younger men, lonely. And I look at them like, how's that possible? You go hang, with your buddies, have a couple of beers, play pool, whatever it might be. If you look, the CDC, that came out a while back. What
do you think that is? Do you think because they're just feeling lost and where they belong at this juncture?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. Take a look at that. It's that was last year. I don't know if it's still the same. I can't imagine things changed that much. Maybe it was a product of COVID. I don't know. But yeah.
Of COVID.
Yeah.
We can do a segment on that.
The website for your center is New Beginnings WC.com. Gotcha. Sherri Ann, thank you for realizing all of this and just with love, embracing all of it and trying to help. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Well,
Thanks for being here today, and bring whatever you want to the table next time. Every time you do, it's stuff that needs to get talked about.
Oh, good.
Really
good.
Does.
Excellent.
Right. I appreciate you.
Okay, we'll see you next week.
You got it. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
This is you over 30 years ago.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
And this is your mom when you drive her back from therapy.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Roles change without us noticing, and in your new role, we help you help. AARP gives you the information to help care for your mom so that you can have patience with her, just like she did with you. Visit aarp.org/caregiving or call 1-877-333-5885 to get practical health and wellness tips to provide even better care for your loved one.
Are we there yet?
Remember, visit aarp.org/caregiving. AARP, we help you help. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.